Welcome to Attacking the Paint. I'm your host, James Ivy Williams, and today I have with me Director of the Atlanta Celtics, Hulio Smith. Hulio and I discuss his upbringing on the Westside of Atlanta, his entrepreneurial spirit, his introduction to the Atlanta Celtics, his positive impact on his players, and his impact on the basketball culture as a whole. All this and more on today's episode of Attacking the Paint. Here's Hulio and I. So tell me, a lot's been going on between protests and police brutality. Tell me how you feel about just the overall social injustice and racial injustice that we've kind of been dealing with that has come to the forefront. Probably now more so because there's nothing else going on and there's a lot more eyes on what's going on.
Right. I think it's something that's obviously been going on for a minute, yeah. And now you just got a group of kids like these younger kids is like they're not going for the same thing that people in the past were going for. Mm-hmm. So, and it's like coming up, I think a lot even from my generation and older. Like African Americans and minorities in general has always been kind of like scared, mm-hmm. And we was just kind of like, it was a fear factor, yeah. Opposed to them like fighting for their rights and standing up for what they believe in. I mean, you had some like with the civil rights movements that, they definitely tried to, they paved the way for a lot of stuff, but I'm speaking like, now these kids these days, they like, there is no peace with them. They want all
that smoke. They want all that smoke.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's funny you said. I think about it, and it's like, I know we talk a lot about how kids are spoiled now, but I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that they're spoiled because they almost feel entitled. Like we weren't. I don't feel like our generation was like we had the ability to kind of feel like we were owed anything. We just had to try to go get it and stay out of the way. These kids, the generation. So I guess we raised a group of kids that like feel like they're entitled and they have a right to everything. And because they have that right to it, they don't give two what's about nobody and nothing.
They don't care. You know what I mean? Like, and I like a lot of people criticize them and talk, about some of the things that they're doing and the way they're going about it. But like, I mean, I can honestly say I don't have a problem with it because, sometimes you got to make a stand and make a statement that, that really wakes people up and gets their attention. Mm-hmm. I mean, and it's like, they tired, what I mean? They just tired of it, what I'm saying? It's like, growing up, you used to hear the phrase a lot, like, whenever it's a violation, it got to be a demonstration. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? And that's what they doing. That's exactly what they doing.
In full force too, in full force. Tell me this. So, well, first I'll piggyback on what you said. So my daughter just turned 17, and so she's in that group of those kids who just like at her school she goes to Decatur High School. So there's some stuff that's going on. She's reaching out to the news. Like my baby she's different, and like all those kids are just different, and so it's amazing to see because like I'm not even sure that I put that in her. Like I can't take credit for that. I think that's just the generation that they kind of grew up in, and it gives you a pride to see that they have it though, and that like they're probably going to be. We've always heard the youth will move things, and the youth will change things. This may be that group of youth that does it though, mm-hmm. and that's exciting. That's exciting to see. So tell me this. I know you're from the West Side. Tell me about Hulio's upbringing on the West Side of Atlanta.
I mean, just like any kid that kind of like grew up in the inner city during that time, like low income. My mother stayed in the projects on the West Side. It was called Egan Homes. It was right over there off Ashby Street, Martin Luther King. Mm-hmm. Everybody from there went to Washington High School. But she didn't want me going to Washington with everybody in that community. So my grandmother, she stayed off Simpson Road, mm-hmm. and her zone was Douglas High School. Okay. So that's why I ended up going to school. It was it was both of them was two single women. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like they did their best. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
For what they had. So
Yeah.
like, and I always say that, like my kids grew up differently than I had to grow up, but I appreciate, what I'm saying, like we didn't have a lot of material things, but one thing that they made sure that I did have was love. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I'm saying? So and I, I think to this day, I thank God for them daily for, instilling a lot of stuff into me. And what I'm saying, like regardless of what was going on, I knew that I was loved. So,
Yeah.
that helped me.
A lot. I feel like a lot of our. I feel like a lot of our black men, if they felt that love and affection and got it, they didn't have to go seek it from other places.
No
And
question. Yeah.
and I feel like a lot of that's huge that you were covered like that. I grew up in Fourth Ward, and so I have 3 brothers, 2 older, 1 younger, and so my mom was there, my dad was there for a little while, but my brothers helped me so much because they like literally my 2 older brothers shielded me from everything. So
Right.
although I saw all of it, I wasn't the one involved in anything. So like I didn't get in no trouble. Like it was just they made sure that I could go play basketball, I could go play football, I can go they were at my games. But when stuff got going, they sent me home, and it was just like at that age, I did what my brothers told me to do always. So like
no question.
But yeah, so that kind of love I had just it helped me so much, just like in my upbringing and the confidence that I had growing up where I grew up at. So tell me like so what was your rec center like? I grew up in the ML King Center, Boulevard.
Mine was we had 2. If I was at my mom's house, it was John F. Kennedy.
Okay.
If I was at my grandmother's house, it was Anderson Park.
Okay. I remember having battles with both those rec centers back in the day, in football and baseball and basketball, for sure. When did you first start coaching? When did you first start coaching?
I first started coaching back in had to be like the late 90s. You know what I'm saying? It was crazy. At that time, that when I first started, I started at Kennedy, at John F. Kennedy.
Okay.
And it came about like I was coaching. I started as a football coach.
Okay.
I was the baddest football coach in the city, I think, at the time. Like I had matter of fact, my first team I had that one of my running back, he plays for the Arizona Cardinals now.
Okay.
Kenyon Drake, and then I got another one who's a cornerback for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Okay.
Steven Nelson. Yeah, so I started out as a football coach, and it was really, football was the thing in the city at the time, and I did it to kind of like to deter kids, give them another outlet.
Right.
When I first started at Kennedy, they didn't have uniforms, they didn't have equipment or nothing up there. They didn't have a younger kid program. We started like a 5 or 6 year old team, me and one of my childhood friends. And you know what I'm saying? It was like we just wanted to kind of like give back to the neighborhood, and then give kids an outlet, like showing some positives. You know what I'm saying? Opposed to what they would always see, because those kids are coming out of the Bluff, Simpson. You know what I mean? Martin Luther King. Like, let's give them some different. So we end up buying everything, and then purchase everything for the team, and got them started. Then it kind of like it went from there.
Okay. See, I had the same experience. My growing up, so Kingston, like I said, James Clark was my coach.
Yeah.
And Coach James was like, he bought everything. He bought uniforms. So like although the rec center had stuff,
when I first started at Kennedy, I bought all my equipment and uniforms from James.
Hey, so small world. So small world. Yeah, he was like, he bought us. We had everything. So like we were always like the best like equipped team. Like we got new uniforms every year. He bought cleats for everybody. Like, I mean, we used to have like visors, like way before like visors was in. Like we had all that stuff. And like Coach James was like, but he was just like a regular. He was a dad, Like, I mean, he had his sons were good, and Dwight were good.
Right.
Like, he was just, he was just there, like picking us up. He had the van. We had the old school van that he used to come in, and we all pile into that van he had.
Yeah. I bought a van too. I bought a 15-passenger van because, at that time, parents weren't bringing kids to practice, or, like you couldn't depend on us. So I had to ride around the neighborhood, pick them up. Man, I used to start like right after school. I used to go all the way from Bowen Homes.
Mm-hmm.
I used to ride from Bowen Homes, Hollywood Road, come all the way back down Bankhead, come down Collier Road, up Simpson, all through the back street. Man, it took me legitimately, like I used to start like 2 hours before practice, like picking up kids. You know what I'm saying? Then we practice. Then I had to drop all of them off. You know what I'm saying? On the weekends, I used to have to keep about 5 or 6 on with me to make sure they don't get lost. Their parents be gone here and their kid be at the auntie house, the cousin house. Out now, y'all just come on, stay with me. So it was, it was at the time. I feel like, like I was blessed.
Mm-hmm.
So I just wanted to be a blessing to those kids, and I think that I look back because a lot of those kids are grown now.
Mm-hmm.
And we still in communication, still talk, and it. To be able to see now, like the impact that you maybe had on their lives at that young age, it was all worth it.
Yeah, for sure. It's interesting you bring like the impact aspect, because Coach James was like the first person, like the first man outside my house who believed in me. And so for me, it was, I never forget. I'll tell you this quick story. I never forget to play. So I was playing football. I was 10 and under playing with scrimmage against 12 and under. And it was my first year playing football. So I was tiny. I'm tiny now. So like I was 4 foot nothing, maybe 75. I was tiny, and so James finally put me in the game at free safety. And the 12 and had this kid named Bo Peep. Bo Peep was like a 6'2", 200-pound 12-year-old. He was huge. Like he played receiver. Bo Peep, they threw a little screen pass. Bo Peep, I took his legs out and dropped him. Coach James came out on the field, picked me up, full uniform, helmet, shoulder pads, everything. Picked me up and shook me in front of the dude. And he was like, this who hit you, this who hit you. And for me, it was the first time, like, it was like real confidence for the first time, you know what I'm saying? Like, and like I said, outside of the house, it was like that impact, like, and every time, the funny thing, every time I see him, he tells that story. Every time I see him, he tells that story. But like, for me, it was like, that was the first time I had like, okay, like, it's one thing to have the confidence at the house with nothing like that, to really like do something outside. And from there on, I was just starting free safety for like all through the rest of my people, like the rec center years. I was just starting free safety. And so, but that impact, like same thing, getting picked up, spend the night, like playing video games with your friends all the time, just to make sure that you got somewhere. Because my mom, like, I can't even tell you, the first time my mom saw me play a sport, I was in 12th grade. Like the first time my dad saw me play a sport, I might have been 15. So like I would walk to practice, walk to games, whatever the case may be. But like they would to assure that I would get there for whatever reason, they on Friday after practice, gonna take you home real quick. You're gonna get your stuff. You come with us. We'll drop you off after the game on Saturday. And so like that was, so like that, like for me, that's that impact. And like you said, it was being a blessing to somebody else. Like the person I feel like I am now directly correlates to what happened to me when I was 10, like, and I never forgot it. Like, and so it's huge. So I appreciate you, you didn't coach me. I appreciate you just for like making sure that other people had that same kind of had that same kind of effect and impact.
Right.
So that's huge. So tell me how you, so I'll tell you this, I played for the Atlanta Celtics 1 year for Coach Hill and Coach Z.
Okay.
Yeah. And so, so I feel like once the Celtics, I always said I wasn't very good. Like this is back when they had like 3 and 4 teams for every age group. So I was on one of the lower teams. But for me, I like my first introduction to AAU basketball was the Atlanta Celtics, because Coach James coached the Celtics when I was like, so first time I ever heard of AAU basketball, it was Atlanta Celtics, and they wore green, white, and gold, and our colors at the Kingston, it was green and white, so it was like automatic, like like that's the team, and
right.
I it never lost sight of that. But tell me how you got started with the Celtics.
Well, I actually got started with the Celtics was a friend of mine, this guy named Tommy Slaughter, Coach PJ. He coached at Adamville.
Okay.
And he used to always tell me that man, you need to come see these kids I got. They play basketball. I'm like, all right, you know. Then he got me over there. You know what I'm saying? He tricked me really at the time because he knew I was gonna fall in love with, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying, with them and with the team.
Yeah.
So he get me over there. I look at them a couple times in the gym. I'm like, man, they good. You know, I think they were like I want to say like 11 or 12 at the time. You know what I'm saying? 11 or 12 years old. And I was like, man, them boys good. So, you know, I say he tricked me because he knew that you know, if I like him, that I was gonna sponsor him.
Right.
But you know what I'm saying? Like I love the kids though. When they, you know, when I was watching them, they, you know, they had heart, they were competitive, and they were good. And so you know, I started sitting around with him, going, you know, helping him out. You know, I was his assistant at the time, and then he ended up being sick. He ended up getting sick with cancer.
Okay.
And you know, so he kind of like he was going through the phase with trying to, you know, like going. I think it was taking chemo or something at the time. But he was sick a lot, which led me to kind of like do more, you know, with the team as they were getting older.
Okay.
And then during that time, that's when Wallace Prather, he, you know, he seen like what I was doing and coaching, and then he kind of like started taking me under his wing, and it kind of like just transformed from now. So it, you know, it kind of, man, I fell into it by it was just like by chance. It's nothing that I pursued or wanted to do. I kind of like just really just fell into this. You know what I'm saying? And then it, you know, I talked to who I'm talking about, the guy Tommy. You know, I talked to him the other day, and I was just telling him like, man, you know, it's almost like 20 years later, like, you know what I'm saying, like, who would have ever thought?
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it will be here. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Still doing it.
So like you say, you fell into it by chance. What was the original career path? Like, what did you want to do, and what were you doing before you got into it, like full throttle?
Man, I honestly didn't you know, I honestly didn't have one. You know, I've always been kind of like business minded and, you know, kind of like an entrepreneur. So during that time I had a barbershop. Got a barbershop right down the corner of Simpson and Chapel Road.
Okay.
You know, I was trying to kind of like do some stuff with some houses, but it was, you know, anything that I could think of that could kind of like, you know what I'm saying, keep me going. But, you know, I never locked into just one thing. Like, this is the path I'm gonna take. You know, my whole life it was always, even when I was younger, you know, it might not be good, but it was like I don't think like a job is for me. Like I can't go clock in. You know what I'm saying? So it was always gonna be something that, you know what I mean, that I can do without
it was
having.
yours.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Honestly, like, I mean, like Hulio, like hearing you talking, like even your voice, you sound so much like Coach James to me is crazy. Like, cause that's what he owned a store. He owned like 2 stores, and then he had the apparel shop and everything. Like, he was the first.
He had a barbershop at that time too, I think.
Yep. But he was the first Black entrepreneur I ever met. Like, ever. Like, had ever even, like, you hear stuff all the time, but it was the first person I knew that had stuff, and like it was his. He ran it. He had employees, and like it was almost like you say, it's just like that impact again of that showing you there's something else. Like, you don't always have to do something for somebody else. And so like, but like a lot of kids don't have that embedded in them at such a young age. You probably did the same thing without even knowing to the kids that you were around, because like you don't see that a lot, especially in the hood. You don't see that often at all. All you see dope boys. You know, I mean, my brothers were dope boys. That's what you saw. That was the only way out. But like, to see somebody who was in theory from where you were from, and to have a different avenue and taking it and then do it by themselves was just something amazing. So again, commend you for that as well. So like I said, like my first introduction to AAU basketball was the Atlanta Celtics. But back when I was younger, it was 2 teams really for me that I remember, and then a third kind of popped up. But it was Atlanta Celtics, it was Team Georgia, and then it was the Georgia Stars.
Right.
Like, Team Georgia obviously has gone away since then, but like those three teams were it in the city. And so like if you were a hooper, everybody converged, and then they were all kind of like regional too, based like where you lived and stuff. So like tell me what it's like to like have sustained this program. Like you mentioned Coach Prather, Coach McCray also. Like those guys started something like epic, and it's like it's not only around still, but it's like thriving. Like it's like it's probably even better than it was. And the Celtics always had a squad. Like there was never a time that they didn't. But tell me what it's like to kind of be at the forefront of like continuing to like lead the legacy of what this is now.
Well, like now I think me trying to lead in that is well, when I kind of like got into it, when I was thrust into why I was running the thing,
Mm-hmm.
it was always like, I wanted to make this thing live on, for Wallace, like in his honor, Prather. Because, at the, when I first kind of like started into this doing this, I was young still,
Mm-hmm.
so I was in my 20s, and, I kind of like I was a little wilder back then, you know what I'm saying? So, and I needed guidance, you know what I'm saying, myself. And he was kind of like, the one that I looked up to is sort of like a father figure, you know what I mean? Like, I always tell everybody like his, I always commend like his ability to be able to deal with people, like different people, different personalities, you know what I'm saying? Like it's, when you can deal with like 10 different people with 10 different personalities and still, you know what I'm saying, keep a common ground amongst all of them. Like I thought that was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what I'm saying? Like, so I knew, I was a challenge for him, you know what I mean, coming from, you know what I mean? But he kind of like Wallace was different. Like, he showed me he had both sides to him too. So, he used to always just tell me, talk to me, you know what I'm saying? Like we'll have like conversations and, you know what I mean? Like, and, what I respected about it, he tell me when I was wrong. He tell me when I was tripping, you know what I'm saying? Then he tell me why he think that. Like he ain't just, like trying to just criticize me or scold me. He let me know, you know what I'm saying? This is why I think that you know what I'm saying? And I just respected it. So like, he started taking me around, showing me the ropes and kind of like growing me really. So, when he ended up passing, that was the big thing, one of the biggest things for me that I didn't want like this to go under, you know what I'm saying? Like him and Carl had worked so hard to build. So I wanted to make sure that we keep it going. You know,
for sure.
That reason.
Yeah. People, I mean, if anyone who doesn't remember Coach Prather and Coach McCray, but Coach Prather in particular, like he was something else. Like I just like you said, he had two sides. Like he had a nurturing side and like, a gentle side, but then he cuts you out, and depending on, you need both of those always. You needed somebody to encourage you and push you forward, but at the same time, like you said, tell you when you're wrong, tell you why you're wrong. And I think that's the difference too. A lot of people are told that they're doing something wrong, but tell me why. Because how do you fix it if you don't give me the direction? And I think a lot of times you're scolded without direction, and then you're kind of thrust out to kind of figure it out by yourself. And so he kind of, that's almost a head start in itself. Like, okay, this is why, and then this is what you need to do to fix it. And that's, it just kind of puts you on the right path. So you talked about how like he took you around and kind of showed you the ropes. And to me, that kind of segues into like relationships, like, and how big relationships are, because he's introducing you to all the people you need to know in theory in this space. Tell me how important you figured out like relationships are in keeping this where it is and even moving it forward.
Our relationships is everything. You know what I'm saying? Like I like it's like one thing people got to realize is, with this or whatever you do, it's like, you can't do nothing by yourself. You know what I mean? And I learned that at an early age. Like it takes a team, you know what I'm saying? For anything, like anything you do, it takes a team. And so, then to be able to branch out and here and there, you know what I mean? Like you need a network, you know what I'm saying? So like Like that's key. You know what I'm saying? Very key to everything. And so, like, when he was taking me around, I'm meeting people in different places here and there, and I always, one of the big things that I pride myself on is, I always try to do right by people. I mean, I don't care who it is. Like, it can be, I mean, like, I mean, and one thing I say is like, not only do I do right by people that I need, I try to do right by people that I don't need.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? People that can't do nothing for me. I still want to kind of like make sure that I, keep that balance between it all. So, I think that's over the years it's kind of like it's helped me.
Right. It seems like people who understand that aspect of it, of relationships, and understanding that typically, like, if you're the person who's doing, just like you said, doing right by people, that everything that you're doing will end up helping you and affecting you in some way at some point. It may not help you right away, but it's almost like not burning bridges. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you want to screw somebody over, that something's gonna happen later. You don't know when, you don't know where, but something's gonna happen. So it's almost like karma. Like my mom always talks about karma. Like, you get back what you put in, and like you putting out good things out into the world, and then like you prosper in the process. And obviously things have worked out that way for you, which is great. And it's just a testament to treating people the right way and doing things the right way. How would you say that, like, the relationships between players and parents have changed over the course of the years, as far as just like impact and like involvement? Because like you said before, you were picking up kids, making sure they were getting places, and now there's a whole group of parents now who are just kind of always there. Like, tell me what's the difference in that? Like, what's that like, having to now manage another set of people? Because you're managing coaches and players already, but now you're managing parents too.
Right. What's the difference in my relationship with them?
Yeah. Or what do you think the difference is, and how it's changed?
It's changed tremendously. You know what I'm saying? Like, and not no knock to nobody, but I joke with people a lot. Like, in the past, you used to only have to deal with parents of the good players. Now, you know what I'm saying, you can be damn near D2.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And you talk to their parent, and you think you got the next Ray Allen on your hand.
Right.
But it's like, you know what I'm saying, man, I get it, but it's, what's helped me a lot is that our history. You know what I'm saying? So, like, given the history that we've had, as far as like, developing, having players, this and that, it's only like so much I'm gonna allow, or so much I'm gonna deal with, or you know what I'm saying? And I'm like, because I'm quick to tell you, like, your child really ain't did nothing. In my eyes, from what I've seen, what I've been through, and what I've helped, make it, along the way, like your child ain't did nothing. You know what I'm saying? But I try to keep myself humble as possible, and kind of like, with everything, I always try to put myself in both shoes. You know what I mean? I try to look at it from maybe a parent aspect, and then also from mine, before I kind of like lash out. But it's totally changed, man. I think a lot of them need to kind of like, like just take a step back and just worry about, your son's development. You know what I'm saying? His academics, and the things that really matter. But ever since the kind of like the internet era, once that happened, it kind of like changed the game a little bit.
Gotcha. And so another segue, perfect timing. So the internet era. So in theory, like I look at you as like you're like an NBA GM or NBA president of operations. Like, you kind of oversee an organization, right? So you're responsible for finding players to some degree, putting players on teams, building camaraderie, all those things. How does all that come into play? Because I mean, there's a lot of moving parts in what you do, especially when you're building multiple teams. You're not building just one team. You're building, 17 and 16 and 15, and then there's other teams below that too that aren't like necessarily being marketed the same way. But like, you're building a lot of pieces in the big program. What is that like?
I mean, it's cool. Like it's just it's still, you know, it's cool because it's still fun. You know what I mean? Like it's fun right now for me. I had a period like a few years back where I was just like burnt out. You know what I mean? Like I just needed a break. So I didn't go to high school games in the state of Georgia for 2 years. Like I didn't go to not one single game. I wasn't going to see nobody play, and I wasn't as into it as far as like building the teams. But then, you know, like I got a chance to kind of like take a step back. You know what I'm saying? And now, you know, I found some newfound love at this, so it's fun again.
Yeah.
And, you know, like, and that's what I'm gonna keep doing it until, you know, like as long as I'm having a good time, having fun doing it, then I'm gonna keep doing it. Once that kind of like that passionate, you know, when I'm just going through the motions, then I'm done with it.
I understand. I think people, I don't know a lot of people understand, like you can lose, like the idea of having fun in it is all that typically matters. There's people have passion, they have a desire, all these things are great, but like if you're not enjoying what you're doing, like again, no one's gonna enjoy it all the time, but if you're not enjoying it most of the time, then it's almost like, what's the point, right?
No question. Then, you know, what I was doing was I was dedicating like my whole life to this. You know what I mean? Like it's like, you know, I got kids of my own. You know what I'm saying? But I'm kind of like putting more time and energy into like other people's kids. Like everything is just like basketball 24/7. You know, around the clock. And it's, you know, I just kind of like needed to disconnect for a minute, and you know, and it was good for me because now it got me to the point where, you know what I mean, I'm full steam ahead again.
Yeah, that's good stuff. So the Celtics are probably one of the for me, the first team I ever saw that had a sponsorship, right? So like you guys may be the team that's had the longest standing relationship with Adidas. Because it was Adidas even when I was young, and so that's like this is before the circuits and everything. This is when we had to go to AAU nationals and YBO and all that stuff. So like how's that relationship like continue to cultivate and grow? Because I mean, you know, in business things get stagnant from time to time. Like, but you guys are like a staple in the grassroots space for that brand. What is that like being like you guys are pretty much like the face of it almost, because it's been you guys for.
We definitely one of the flagship programs. We are the longest tenure program that they have, you know, right now. And it's, you know, it's cool, but you know what I'm saying? Like it's you know, like I always tell, you know, my guys, we just got to keep producing because, you know, like I never get to the point where I'm comfortable. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes people get complacent, get comfortable and feel like, oh, we've been here this long. They won't do this. They won't do that. Now they'll get rid of us too. You know what I'm saying? The minute we start falling short and not doing this and not doing that, they'll get rid of us. It's just going to be like your time done come. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, we just got to stay active and
Gotcha. Tell me this. You mentioned the internet, how things have changed with the internet before. What is it like scouting and recruiting with that having such a, like people may think a kid's better because the kid may have more followers or more views or something like that than a kid who you've seen, who you know can go. What is that like? Like having to deal with that kind of stuff?
I don't do internet recruiting at all. You know what I'm saying? Like I can't, you know, I always want to lay my own set of eyes on the kids. I want to see them for myself. You know, I want to get a gauge of everything. Because when I'm going to look at them, you know, it's a lot of things I'm looking at. You know, when I go into the gym, I look at the kid. I watch him in warm-ups. I want to see how he warming up. You know what I mean? How he interacts with his teammates. You know what I'm saying? I want to look at how, not only how he plays in the game. You know what I'm saying? I want to pay attention to how he is on the bench. You know what I mean? His body language. You know, after the game, like how many people around him, how many, you know, who's all there. You know, I kind of like want to scope everything out. That way I can kind of like know how to proceed with the kid. But as far as like, you know, sometimes I might look at lists on the internet and get like a group of names, but I'm not like putting my stock in it just because this person says this kid is this, then I'm just going full speed. No, I want to go see him myself and then build my own thing with it.
Gotcha. It's like I feel like that's, first of all, that's exactly like how just so you, that's how I scout. Like I don't just, like how you play is great, but there's so many other factors about you. I mean, even parents, like, you know, there's so many things that can affect you and impact who you are as a player. But it's interesting that you say like you don't take stock in what other people say, because when you think about it, it's like a movie review, right? Somebody may write a bad movie review, and you're like, well, I don't want to see the movie then. And my thought process is like, I don't know what they were looking for. Like, I don't know what they see. Like, it's their eyes. Like, I don't care about someone else's opinion, because I can see something completely different and enjoy it greatly, or I can see a player in a completely different light, and I may think he's the best thing since sliced bread. You may thought he was trash, and that could have been because of the weekend you saw him. You know, like the kid could have broke up with his girlfriend the weekend you saw him, and he trash. But the next weekend he got a new chick and he good now. You know, like you just don't know. You know, so I think you have to watch everything. That's like, it's definitely like cool to hear that like sometimes other people think like you, because you know most people, like more often than not, what I'm noticing in the business is a lot of people they'll put a kid in a box in one sitting. Like I saw him one time, and oh, he's this or he's that, and you got to see a kid multiple times. First of all, they're kids. You know, they're nowhere near a finished product, and you have to make sure that you see them often in order.
And then because it's some that's, you know, and on the flip side of that, you have some that's actually really good. You know what I mean? Like really good, can flat out go, but you know what I mean, like they it's like they're bad teammates. You know what I'm saying? And they kind of like can, you know, that kind of like can throw a wrinkle in things. So you want to get a clear picture of everything before you know what I'm saying? Because it's almost like a investment that you're making.
Yeah, for sure. So you guys have started the season off. Obviously, it's super late, but you guys start the season off undefeated for the 17Us. You've got two kids you got a team full of studs. I don't want to discredit anybody, but you got two kids that are, you know, in top 10 kids in theory. You know, like you got Matthew and you got Jabari. Tell me what it's like when you bring in a third kid. So you bring JD Davison in last weekend. Tell me how you navigate something like that when you bring in another top tier kid to a group that seems to be kind of rolling already. You know, like what is that like?
It was cool because I didn't overlap positions. You know what I'm saying? As far as with them, you know what I mean? And you know, like credit to JD, he didn't come in kind of like trying to do, you know what I mean, like he's, you know, sometimes you have certain kids that's like, well, I'm this, so, and they'll come in trying to outshine. Right. You know what I'm saying? With none of those kids, you know, they're all three good kids. So you know what I'm saying? Like the chemistry together, it just like blended, like off the rip. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So that was like one of the most easiest things that I've had to do.
Good stuff. So going back to Matthew and Jabari, I saw them both a week apart from each other, but like the summer after their freshman years. And so I saw one, Brad Martin runs EYA Sports. He had Southside. Yeah.
That's Jabari. That's who Jabari started. Well, he was playing with him when he came to play with me. And you know, I got shout out to Brad. Like Brad did an outstanding job. You know what I'm saying, with Jabari as far as like training him and, you know, keeping the gym, working with him. So he, you know what I mean, I think he was a integral part of kind of like speeding him up and speeding him along.
For sure. And so like for me, like when I see this dangly kid, right? He's such a, like, the crazy part, he's in that camp. Peyton Daniels is in that camp. Like, and it's like, they're just having fun. They're like, I'm like, Brad, who's that kid? He's like, that's Jabari Smith Jr. I was like, dude, he like 6'9". And he's like, yeah, he only a sophomore too. And I'm like, what? Like, he a sophomore? I'm like, it's crazy. You're seeing like he's just having fun. He's like, there's not like a seriousness to him yet. So he's just playing basketball with his friends, right? He's like doing things like that you don't see a 6'9" kid do, right? You don't see a 6'9" kid take a rebound off, push it up, create and shoot a three like with ease and like no type of force, anything, right? And so like I'm like, that kid gonna be, I was like, anybody offense, I think he said like Georgia and LSU had offered him, but he wasn't like on the scene yet. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, that's crazy. So I write a little article about him like on my website. The following week, I see Matthew at Hoop Scenes event. And I'm like, I'm asking Jess, like, who's that? You know, that's Matthew Cleveland. He goes to Cambridge. I'm like, are you like 6'5"? Like it's like, you see these kids and they're both like, you see length already and athleticism and skill set. They're like, most kids have to kind of grow into that. So they may be big, but they're uncoordinated or something. And you see two kids that are just like fluid and they still don't know how to play basketball yet. Right. And so now to kind of see them going into the senior years, and I've seen, I saw both of them at USA Basketball. I saw both of them at the NBPA Top 100. Like, to see like them kind of like explode nationally now, when you saw them both at local camps, it's crazy to see. It's crazy to see, and then to see them like play for like the program in the state, in my opinion, and in the Southeast, really, in my opinion. Like, it's exciting because I know that like they're only going to continue to get better. Like, how do you continue to like mesh that kind of stuff? Like, 'cause again, you said they're good kids, so that kind of helps always. Like, good people typically are easier to work with than prima donna, so to speak. So like, is that always the case? Like, or is there sometimes a pressure to like kind of have to like manage egos and behavior when it comes to kids at this level of talent?
Yeah, I mean it's been like that in the past with other kids, but not with this group. Like, you know what I mean? Like with these kids, and I think that's a great testament to their parents. You know what I'm saying? Both of them parents, like they kind of I don't have that issue. And then one thing with me is like I, what I mean, like I don't, like I definitely, what I'm saying, like witness a lot of things that they're doing on the court, but I don't praise them for a lot of the stuff that they do. You know what I mean? What they're doing, I'm more so, they probably think I'm nitpicking because I'm more so criticized for things that they're not doing and things that they need to work on. Because, like, yeah, this cool, you're doing good now, but I don't want you to do good. I want you to be great. You know what I'm saying? I want you to strive to be the best that you can be. And so, until we reach that point, then I'm going to be the one they be like, man, Coach Hulio always got something to say.
Hey, but you know what? When they get to wherever they're gonna get, they'll appreciate that though, because like that push, like there's a lot of people who praise them. Like, you need somebody to tell you you ain't shit every now and then. You just do.
And that's like, here again, like, thanks to our history, like I be quick. Like, to me, y'all ain't did shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, I had NBA All-Stars, first round pick. You know what I mean? Like, lottery picks. Like,
first pick in the draft.
What have y'all done? Really. Like, now both of those guys, man, they hard workers. They live in the gym. They hard workers, and I think that the sky's gonna be the limit. I really do think the sky's gonna be the limit.
Okay, good stuff. Well, this
have to be a part of their journey, and get kind of like to watch it unfold.
For sure. This is my last question for you. So, tell me how does it feel to kind of like have this cultural impact on the game of basketball? I saw that you were rated top 100 on one of the media platforms recently, but like even beyond that, like you've impacted the game of basketball like locally, regionally, and nationally, and to the point where like internationally, because you've had guys that played for your program who played in the Olympics, right? So you've had a huge impact on the game. What is it? I mean, it sounds to me like you just kind of like you always moving, so like it's probably hard to even think about it. But like, just take a step back. What is it like to kind of like see what you've done thus far?
I mean, I obviously, like the to be acknowledged by someone else is great. You know what I'm saying? And I appreciate it. But like I've always, like I always state, like I appreciate it, but it's not just me. You know what I'm saying? Like none of that would have been possible if it wasn't for like everybody that's around me, everybody that's surrounded me, as far as like, the coaches, the amazing job they do with the teams, like the guys that we have like out recruiting and trying to get kid, because it's, like I'm not the one that goes and recruits every kid, like a lot of other people that make those first inroads, and they call me when it's time to close it. When it's time to get to the final table. So, it's just like, like it's a lot of moving parts. And I think that, without all of them, what I'm saying? Like, none of it could be possible. So like I appreciate it, but, I'm smart enough to know like it ain't just me.
Right, for sure. For sure. For sure. And you know what? And that aspect will keep you going far, because people who typically do well are the people who are humble. You know, like we all have egos and, you know, stuff, but like I think the people who kind of like, if you watch like basketball, watch basketball in particular, the guys who typically make it a lot of times are the ones who weren't sure. You know, like there's stories about guys like you hear parents like, well, we were asking him if he thought he could play Division I basketball, and the kid turns out to be, you know, NBA All-Star, but he didn't know if he could play D1 at any level. You know, so like I feel like people who have a humility about themselves and just work always tend to kind of like get to where they're supposed to get to, you know, and whatever it is that they're doing, you know. And so that's huge. That, and to hear you like as a person who's, you know, runs such a, you know, prestigious organization and kind of has, like I said, grown it to like bigger heights than it's ever been before, to hear that you still just know like, hey, it ain't just me. It's people, like it's people who help me and do this all the time. And that's huge. But yeah, Hulio, I appreciate you so much, wholeheartedly for this. No problem at all. Also appreciate you for letting me come to practice. I appreciate everything, because you've opened up, you know, stuff for me. I mean, like, you know me from Adam, so I definitely appreciate you, man, for sure.
No problem. Okay.
And I'm sure I'll see you soon. I'll probably see you this weekend or next weekend.
Definitely. All right.
You too. Take care.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Attacking the Paint. This episode was brought to you by Between the Lines Sports. You can find us on Instagram and Twitter at BTL Hoops. You can follow us on the web at btlscouting.org. Please stay tuned for more episodes. Until next time.